question gone? Here it is. It's not loading on my screen. I want to say it correctly, so I'm going to wait. Fact or fiction? Moises Caicedo is now the best player on the planet in his position. And he's even more influential than Declan Rice. Facts or fiction?
In his position, I'm going to say fact. I don't know. I think the weight of the influence comes down to how important you might judge a holding midfielder to be in a team. I think Declan Rice can be incredibly influential for Arsenal this season. But I do think Moises Caicedo and the role that he's playing at Chelsea right now is instrumental to Chelsea getting results. So, I mean, you look at that Tottenham game, Chelsea probably don't win that game without Caicedo making that action that he did to win the ball high up and creating the opportunity to score. So, yeah, I think he's the best in the world in what he does. But I think Rice may be more influential to Arsenal in terms of what they might achieve this season.
Dan, I'm so glad you're not certain other Chelsea fans on this panel. I swear to God, because I think they would have gone and said it's absolute fact that Moises Caicedo is now the best player on the planet. Are you talking about any position overall?
No, the statement that I've, again, all of these fictional fact questions come from people's tweets. And it was Moises Caicedo is now the best player in the planet in his position and even more influential than Declan Rice. So it's saying that he's a better midfielder. And my thing on the Rice and Caicedo debate, I was having it in a group chat last night with Don, and Don gets really specific around. They both play different roles. We're doing Enzo versus Rice, and he goes, "Well, I don't think Rice is a better 8 because I don't think Rice is an 8. He's a 6." I'm like, "But he's playing as an 8." No, he isn't. I'm like, "Well, he is. He defends and he
Rice
attacks."
Is playing as an 8. He is.
Yeah, I just call that an 8. Someone who I see defending and attacking, it's just an 8. Like, we don't mess around with it. But in terms of, I want to redefine the question a little bit. When it says more influential than Rice, they both do different things, but they both are midfield players. So, which one do you think is the better and more influential midfielder overall, Dan?
It's hard because I think they do different things for their team, and each team at the moment values what they do a little bit differently. Like I look at Caicedo and I think he's absolutely instrumental in that role as a 6, breaking up the play, winning the ball in certain areas, preventing attacks on Chelsea's defence, which is arguably one of its weaker areas. And I think he does that so well, and he's shining in a team that, you know, has been a little bit inconsistent this season. I think he's been one of the most consistent players now for at least a season, maybe 2. So it's hard to say who's more influential, because I think Arsenal are in the position they are because of a player like Declan Rice at the same time. I think he allows Arsenal to, you know, play in a number of different ways. He's an incredibly well-versed midfielder in any position he's asked to play. You know, he can play as a 6 and do a fantastic job. We've seen him do that for England. We've seen him be pivotal in England in terms of being that defensive midfielder and their success in tournaments, or at least getting, you know, into the final stages. And we've also seen him move up into this 8 position for Arsenal and be incredibly important to them in big moments now as well, scoring late goals, scoring big goals against Real Madrid, getting on the ball, carrying the ball forward over a huge amount of yards. He's influential for them. You can't deny it. So look, it will upset people, but I'm sort of sitting on the fence there, because I both believe they're incredibly big assets for their team, and both teams would be far worse off without them. I think what I will say is Caicedo as a 6, as an out-and-out defensive midfielder, is probably above Rice in that role, but Rice can do things as an 8 that I don't think Caicedo can do.
Yeah, if you're talking influence and like you compare him to his peers, like it's a difficult one to judge, because I'm not debating Caicedo is arguably Chelsea's most important player, if not the best player in their team. But where does the likes of Pedri go into this? Because he's a different player, but he is so important to how Barcelona plays.
Team, if you were building an ideal 3 in midfield, you could have an 8 in Rice, a 6 in Caicedo, and a player to play as Pedri.
Yeah,
like that would be unbelievable. It's almost like your perfect midfield 3. I think the one thing where I'd probably say Rice might get the nod in terms of influence is as a leader. I believe that he's probably the more natural leader of the 2. I think Caicedo probably leads on the pitch of his performances, but I think Rice is a vocal person as well, probably in the dressing room, around the club, is someone who I think probably acts more naturally as a leader.
I hear it. I think Because I feel like when we speak to Chelsea fans about Caicedo, they always give the whole he's better than anyone else. There is no debate. Like Declan Rice can't lace his boots. They go to the extreme about this, and we're like, you're not talking about a random scrub. You're talking about one of the best players in the Premier League. Like Declan Rice is up there, Caicedo is up there, and I'm gonna be quite bold with this, and I think people have really forgotten his importance to my team, and it's Gravenberch. I think people forget how important this guy is to how we function in that midfield. You saw against Aston Villa how good he was, and how dominant we were because of the performance that he put. And even at the start of the season, chipping in with goals, his intercepting, everything. I think he's got to have a shout in this. And you're talking about influence. He's arguably just as influential for Caicedo as he is for Caicedo at Chelsea as he is for Liverpool. So it's an interesting one. Look, at the end of the day, I think that the whole debate surrounding this is that people go to the extremes about this, and people need to remember you're comparing two world-class ability players in Rice and Caicedo. But for me, like you said, I think Rice has shown on a consistent basis for the last 5 years, even with West Ham, that he can play to a very high level. So that's why maybe people will take him out of Caicedo.
Deji, do you feel like you've got anybody inside the Tottenham team, the Tottenham squad, that competes with Rice, competes with Caicedo, is on their sort of level in the midfield areas?
No, unfortunately, we don't. If we did, we wouldn't be losing to Chelsea on the weekend.
No Palhinha?
So, Palhinha, nah. Palhinha is the best of a bad bunch, to be honest. You know, he didn't have much competition in that midfield. I would like to see a lot better quality there. I actually wanted to see, is it Edison from Atalanta maybe playing that role? Adam Walton maybe playing that role at Spurs. You know, those are the sorts of players that I'm looking at who potentially down the line could challenge. I guess for me, that my only kind of 2 cents for our American viewers is that who can live without who? I think Arsenal can manage without Rice, but I don't think Chelsea can manage without Caicedo.
But I don't think you can use that as a pushback against one or the other, because that's just down to squad. That's just down to the team that like Arsenal have spent a lot of money on good players like Zubimendi, whereas Chelsea have got Enzo and Caicedo, and they haven't really strengthened in that sort of way that Arsenal have. So I think it's a bit unfair to use that as a yardstick. But everything else I think you've said has been pretty spot on so far. Yeah, okay. But sorry, I'll let you continue. Sorry, carry on.
No. That was the only thing I was going to say. But what I, you know, and just kind of harping back to the conversation we had about Manchester Piccadilly, you know, those are the sorts of level of player that you kind of need if you want to be competing at the top. And what you have done, what we are talking about is world-class players, and I think that's what's been missing. That's what's missing in Spurs' team. When I look at my team today, we don't have a world-class player in our starting 11. Maybe if you squint hard enough, Romero, and that's about it. Whereas these players are, you know, these top 6 teams or top 4 teams, more than one, you know, world-class player. Caicedo, world-class. Declan Rice, world-class. And yeah, definitely they deserve all the props that they get. But I do think Arsenal can cope without him, whereas Chelsea definitely can't.
It's an interesting one for me because I think they're both amazing, and I'm so excited about Arsenal playing Chelsea to see kind of who influences the game the most, and they do influence in different ways. I think it's a really fair thing that you said there, Dan. They do things differently, and I agree with a lot of your assessment. Where I look at it this way, I would say marginally, Caicedo's a better 6, not much in it, but a better 6. I think playing as an 8 and being more attacking, I think Rice does things. I don't know if Caicedo can do them because we're not getting to see it. But until you see it, you don't know, right? We can all have an opinion that, I think he could do what Rice does. But Rice, that's why I look at him. If you look at it as and I've noticed this a lot in football debates, and I don't know if you guys have seen this on your own platforms when people come on or other platforms you go on. Everybody's now doing this whole, we can have the debate, but we need to remove corners. We've got to remove non-penalty goals. We've got to remove when you play away from home. I've got to remove when it's raining because my guy isn't good when it's raining. If we take away all those things, now we can have the debate. Have you guys seen that a lot? I don't know if it's just me. Yeah. I'm noticing it more and more now. People want to take away
removing the
elements. Yeah, people want to take away actual elements of football. So for me, one of the reasons why I put Paul Scholes so highly in the Scholes-Gerrard-Lampard debate, and I always did, is that Scholes throughout his career, and age, there was an age element to this as much as a necessity, but he was a brilliant attacking midfielder, a brilliant central midfielder, and a world-class holding midfield player. He played all three roles impeccably well. We know he could do all of them. Gerrard was an amazing midfield player. Amazing. When he got a little older and went into a more DM type role, he was good. He weren't Paul Scholes good. Do you know what I'm saying? Frank Lampard couldn't hold a midfield. What, sorry?
Because Scholes had Carrick. Gerrard was doing what Carrick was doing. So he was basically that anchor.
Yeah. But he wasn't as good as Carrick at doing it, is my point, right? He wasn't of that level. But he was very good still. I'm not slagging him off. I'm saying that I'm just consistent in how I assess football players. And that's why when I look at the two, I just slightly side with Rice as an overall midfielder because he can play both midfield roles. He can defend and he can attack to a very, very high level. And that's the only reason I slightly side with him, and it's very marginal for me because I think they're both impeccable. What I would give to have them in my Man United midfield, fuck me, them two in this double pivot right now, we could be in a title race. Not with Shaq. No, only if we kept Hoyland though. Only if we kept Hoyland. Not if Sheshko's there. But yeah, I think they're both brilliant. What are you saying, Kane? Which are the two? What do you make of the statement that's been made here?
Yeah. As for the first part, is Caicedo the best player on the planet? I think that's fictional. I agree that he's probably more influential to Chelsea, or he's more important to Chelsea than Rice is to Arsenal. But I guess that's because I would still consider Rice a better footballer than Caicedo, purely for what you were saying in terms of he can do more. And we haven't really got to see what Caicedo could do in that area. I would still put Tonali ahead of both of them myself personally, but I'm unashamedly going to do that as well because I think he can do all the things that. And again, I'm not like we were saying before. It's not clear or anything. It's none of that sort of stupid. It's like we're splitting hairs here between these four players if we're going to include Gravenberch as well. But I think Tonali is a phenomenal player and has shown that he can do everything from the six as well. But I guess that's my 2 cents.
I was waiting for the Tonali shout. I was waiting for it.
Listen, Bruno as well, man. He's not as good. I think Bruno's like slightly below Rice and Caicedo. But listen, I've got the pleasure of having two top, if not world-class midfielders in my midfield, and I'm not afraid to put them in that spotlight. Even if others won't. And Paul Scholes agrees with me, so there you go.
Do you know what I find interesting about? I think it's going to sound harsh. I just want to see Tonali.
I know what you're going to say.
I mean it. I want to see Tonali at a bigger club. Yeah. I want to test him. I want to test him at a bigger club, a bigger club who are at the peak of their powers, and I mean that. And this is no disrespect to Newcastle, and Newcastle fans will hate what I'm saying, but there is a truth in it. You're sitting 13th in the league right now. What I haven't seen yet, 10 games in, think pieces, major talking points on TalkSport. The world's media is ignoring it, and that's because you're Newcastle still right now. If that was Arsenal, if that was Chelsea, if that was Man United, if that was Liverpool, you've seen what the media scrutiny is like. And the reason why I think that's important is there is a different pressure when you go to one of those clubs to deliver, to perform, and how you handle it. I think what he's doing at Newcastle is amazing. I think he's a fantastic football player, but I still think there is a level to go up when it comes to handling that expectation. We've seen it already with players like Isak joining Liverpool. I know he didn't have a pre-season, but I do feel there's an element where he's going, fucking hell, this is a different animal. This is a different beast.
Terry, I've got to disagree with that, though.
Go on, then.
He did play for one of Italy's biggest clubs in AC
but they weren't at the peak of their powers. That's what Terry said.
No, but still the pressure. No, but still the pressure of being the main guy for AC Milan and leading them to a Serie A as well. That people forget. the pressures that are of playing for AC Milan is still very, very high.
No,
it doesn't matter how
I
big they
hear
are,
you.
the pressure is still there.
I hear you, right? I hear you, and I think it's a really good challenge. He was there. He only played for their first team though for a couple of years. Still very young, and there is a difference still between being a young player coming through at a club and being one of the linchpin midfields. Now, go back to Italy now and pay for AC Milan. Go to Barcelona now, Bayern Munich, when there's an expectation. I think there's something different about that for me that I'd like to see him do, because nobody was talking about him as one of the best midfielders in the world when he was at AC Milan. He was talked about as potential back then, and a lot of us liked him. A lot of us rated him. There is a difference in that conversation when there is an expectation on you to deliver because you've gone for big money or you're the main guy. I feel that's even like with Scott McTominay is a great example. He went to Napoli. No one expected anything. He's killing it over there. There's probably going to be the chance in the next 12 to 18 months for him to move to a big club again. There is. That move is a different test because it's probably going to be a team that he goes to with an expectation to deliver. Delivering against an expectation, I think, is a very different kettle of fish, personally. You know, and Chelsea's Fernando Torres saw that. You go to Chelsea for a big money move. That's one big club to another, but you go with an expectation to deliver because you're a £50 million player. Can you handle it? Which, by the way, for all the kids watching, that was a colossal amount of money for a player. That was probably £160 million in today's money.
It was a British record,
Yeah. So absolutely huge.